1. I'm a 26-year-old Asian man and live in a 2-family home, 2 floors with my parents plus other family members. In my neighborhood, the buildings are all joined together and we share a gate with this neighbor from hell who is also Asian. Our issues began like this with a little backstory. As a child, I used to shovel snow from both our sides because it was a shared walk space. We were on friendly terms. My stairs on the left, common space, their stairs on the right. Fast forward to like around 2015. I no longer shoveled for them because I'm a teen and shoveling was more of a chore than playtime. And what does the husband do? He shovels just a strip of land, just enough for a single person to walk on, and leaves the excess snow there, and a sprinkle of salt. This is not okay because I have grandparents that go out, shovel, grocery shop, trash, etc., and the excess snow and salt equals melted snow. And then it leaks over and freezes onto our side, which is dangerous for not just the elderly, but anyone that slips on it. Therefore, my mom confronts him about this issue, and he did not take it well. He started calling her a bitch and cursing her out. And with each year that passes, the things he does just escalate. He began telling everyone on the block not to associate themselves with my family, not even talk to us, because for whatever reason he could say. And every time he would see my mom or even my grandparents, he'd say F you and verbally harass my family members. Example, my grandpa would go out to do trash, and he would yell at my grandpa for purposely making loud noises whenever he was nearby, like, huh? This is speculative, but very possible. We were getting tickets filed against us for random things like illegal construction. Just a couple of months ago, his wife came and rang my doorbell while I was home, so I opened the door and she's trying to make amends by saying, you live your life and we live ours. Which I was fine with because I have no ill will towards the wife. However, midway into our convo, when she's like, why is our relationship like this now? It used to be fine and whatnot. Mentally ill, nosy husband pops up and is speaking to me in a calm tone. Didn't have issues with me personally at the time and goes, yeah, I don't know why we have a problem. Your mom's always bothering me, and your grandpa's always making loud noises on purpose when he's also throwing out trash. Basically, he was just talking crap about my family to me. And I didn't want to hear none of that hot garbage, so I cut him off, that he obviously didn't like, so he got heated, and his wife had to yell at him to go home. Ultimately, I said to his wife, just keep him in check. He minds his own business and we'll mind ours. Literally recently, we were getting some maintenance done on our house, roofing, etc., and this clown somehow got the firefighters to show up to our place. They asked the workers for their license, and after inspecting, saw nothing was wrong and left. So my mom and my other neighbor, who is also getting house maintenance done with us, confronts the guy. This guy gets heated, and so they were like, we're going to wait for your wife to talk to you, stupid butt. And he calls his wife to not come back. She only came back after my neighbors left, which was hours later. Sorry, that turned into a rant. 2. What's up, community? Came here for some advice. So I came home from work earlier this evening, and my wife starts telling me about what the neighbor had said to her earlier today while I was at work. First of all, we moved into this new home about 4 or 5 months ago. It's a big house, the biggest on this short street we moved into, about 2,500 square feet. It's a brand new home, and we are renting. Since we moved in, we already knew we were only staying here a year and then moving, and that's more due to how the house is. It's an illusion. Even though it's brand new, the owner just made it look like a nice house, which it is, but there's a lot of cheap things and a lot of problems from week 1. The owner of the house really listed this home for $2.1 million for sale, and could not sell, so decided to rent. We don't have that kind of money to buy a home. We live with her brother and split the bills. Since we moved in, we have not been welcomed by any of the neighbors, but at the same time we don't care. We haven't tried to meet any of them either. We just don't want to be bothered, and we don't bother anyone. We're not bad neighbors, we don't throw any kinds of parties or have anyone come over except our parents from time to time. We don't play any loud music, we literally just mind our own business. I'm male, and my wife and I are both 33. I turned 33 on August 1st. We have a 4-year-old son, we just work, come home, that's it. Since we're only riding it out here for the rest of the year, about 6 or 7 more months tops, then we're moving again, we don't feel the need to introduce ourselves or anything like that. Maybe if we were going to stay here long term I'd understand, but not the case. So anyways, when we first moved in, maybe the first week, the landscapers failed to come around for a few weeks before they got on schedule, so I took it upon myself to go around and clean the yard from the branches and other stuff that was around the yard. We have woods between us, by the way, so as I'm doing this, some woman from next door, I'd say she had to be 35, 40, and that's me being generous, was walking up the driveway with a man and says hi. I look and smile, wave and say hi back. She saw me, gave me a dirty look, and just kept walking. I shrugged it off like what's her problem, and I haven't really interacted with them since. So today my wife tells me an even older woman approaches her from that house that we have never seen before, but like I said, we mind our business, so why would we? Well, my wife's mother was here, and they were in the driveway getting ready to take our son to the zoo, when that lady went up to them and said hi and talked. She introduced herself as they began chit-chatting. The lady told them she lives next door, and they are so happy to have neighbors in that house since it has been vacant for a while since it's brand new. They spoke about irrelevant things to my story, but then proceeds to tell my wife, "Oh, and your husband, tell him I give him permission to sit on the back porch." Like, first of all, what? You give me permission to do what in my house? That I pay rent for, really? We have an upper-level porch coming from our bedroom, and I smoke cigarettes, so I'm out there often since it's where I like to smoke, since it's the back of the house. So she continues and implies I'm watching their house and that she's going to put clothes in her bedroom window so I don't feel bothered. I was in shock. This old lady really tried to tell my wife that I'm peeping at her through windows when I never cared to even look at their house, or even notice that she didn't have shades up. And I can't even see their window from the porch. Even my wife and her mother were in disbelief that she even said that. I don't care to look through her window or even towards their way. I have too much crap in my mind and too much going on to care about anyone's business but my family's, and what I have to take care of. What made her think I'm looking through her windows? Because I go out on my back porch to smoke? Then to say she gives me permission to smoke there, what nerve. My wife said she's like 80. When I heard that, I was in even more shock. A woman that old is really saying this stuff to my wife and her mom? I mean, to say that to any man's wife, girl, partner, whatever, is just crazy in my opinion. I want to approach this lady and really let her have it, and tell her a thing or two. But I don't want to start problems. I still want to say something to her, but since it really struck a nerve, and my plan is whenever I see her, I'm gonna call her over, record the conversation for my protection, and let her know that no one here cares to look over there, or anything they have going on. She also started to tell my wife how successful her son is. I don't know why she did. What do you guys think I should do or say? This is really striking a nerve, and I'd like to go and say something crazy, but like I said, I don't want problems for the rest of the short time we'll be here for. So what's the deal? What should I do or say? Any help or advice is greatly appreciated. And again, I apologize for such a long story. Thanks for your time. Hellfreezer's note. Don't do anything. As you say, you're there for 6, 7 months at this point. Just hope you don't have any crazy old ladies, or at least if they are crazy old ladies, they're at least the fun kind of crazy old lady as your next neighbor. I'm more confused that people don't have curtains or blinds on their windows. I mean, I've got both. Not just for the privacy, but, you know, I sleep during the day, and sometimes you want a nice cozy night, or when the weather is warm, it's always a good idea to, if you've got blackout curtains, like I prefer to have, draw the curtains, and it does actually help cool the room down. So that's the part that kind of confused me. No curtains, my heavens. But, yeah, really though, I wouldn't say anything to her. She is just a crazy old lady doing crazy old lady things. 3. My uncle lives off the grid. What I mean by that is he purchased a large piece of property in his state which is dirt cheap and filled with lots of open land. He purchased miles of property which he turned into his own playground for projects for himself. He has his own windmills along with an emergency diesel system for his home. He hunts and harvests his own meat from local game. He raises chickens in a specialized open cage system. Picture hamster cage tubes made of chicken wire so they can roam without getting eaten. He gets his internet via satellite. The only real outside help he gets is when he has his septic system pumped every few years, etc. The place is a dream. I've visited a few times and I love it. This is where the fun begins. My uncle recently had this random guy coming down the only road which goes to his house. The guy would stop and look at my uncle's place and then he'd leave. He did this a few times before my uncle confronted him about it. The way my uncle tells it is this guy was exploring buying property in the middle of nowhere to live a similar life as my uncle. My uncle says all he told him is, "It's absolutely worth it if you have the patience to make it work." That's where this whole thing goes insane. About a year or so later, the guy apparently started building a house on a piece of property he purchased not too far away from my uncle. It was far enough to where my uncle couldn't see him, but close enough to where my uncle wasn't happy to find out about it. My uncle wasn't thrilled, but he also doesn't own the world, so what can he do? One day my uncle sees this guy at the entrance of his property, and he drives on with his truck. He jumps out and walks over to my uncle and starts asking him a bunch of questions. My uncle tells it like this. "Hey, so I don't know if you know, but I'm in the process of building a house a short while from here, and I want to figure out what agreements you have with the city and state for things like power and sewage and whatnot." "What do you mean?" "I mean like getting electricity, water, and other utilities to your house." I never have." "What?" "My power comes from my wind turbines, my water comes from the river and rain collection, my sewage is filtered through a septic system, and I hunt to raise all my food. There are no utilities out here." "Well, that doesn't make any sense. You have to have access to something out here." "Buddy, we're around 30 miles away from the nearest town, and maybe 10 from the closest national park. There are no utilities out here." "Why do you think firefighters use the lakes for firefighting? There's no infrastructure." The guy is now physically angry. "I don't ever believe this. Do you realize how much money I just spent?" "What did you think off the grid meant? There's no water grid or electric grid or what have you." That's what the grid part refers to. The guy storms off and drives like a maniac off his property, and my uncle hears nothing for the next 2 weeks. My uncle gets a letter in the mail from a law firm. I kid you not, this guy is trying to sue my uncle, claiming he was falsely led into purchasing a piece of property based on my uncle's endorsement of the off-the-grid lifestyle. 1, my uncle has never even seen this land this guy is building on. 2, my uncle has zero incentive to lie because he has no connection to this property he purchased. 3, he never told this guy there was access to utilities. 4, he never even learned the guy's name until he received the letter in the mail. So now my uncle has to hire a lawyer and go to court over this idiot purchasing a piece of property in the middle of nowhere without doing the most basic research. It's less about the money and more about the wasted time. He lives away from people for a reason, and this basically is why. 4. My neighbor lives literally 20 feet from my house, and their porch directly across from mine. It's a 2-bed, 1-bath house with 3 adults, a baby, 5 dogs, a cat, and a turtle. All 3 of the adults are physically well enough to take her 5 dogs out to use the bathroom at the park we literally live across from, but are all lazy and don't even bother to take any of the poor dogs on walks. Thus, my neighbor has makeshift pee pads out of old towels for when they use the bathroom inside, and has been leaving the door to their porch open so the dogs can also go outside and use the bathroom there. We have lived at this location for 6 months and have gotten along with our neighbor great this entire time, but the heat has made her porch and concrete below smell atrocious. You can see giant stains and trails of literal crap that have been left to bake in the sun for months. I talked to her 2 weeks ago about it, and she was apologetic and said she'd watch them better. I was really nice about it and was like, no worries at all. Thank you for working with us on it. This is the one and only time I complained about anything in the past 6 months, and we have gotten along great until last Saturday. I personally witnessed all dogs out on her porch, and one of them was peeing, so I gently texted her. I didn't take a photo of it peeing, but I wish I had now. Instead, I took a photo of the aftermath. You can still see the 2-month-old feces on the bottom of the porch along with the half-dried pee puddle. The only thing I asked is if she'd be willing to try some baking soda on it to help with the smell. She immediately began attacking me, calling me a liar, and to get a life because her dogs have never used the bathroom on her porch ever, and then blocked me. She refuses to speak to us in person now, so I decided from now on we would go through code enforcement. They said she had literally a 20-year-old case from the previous owner saying the same exact things we are experiencing with her. She would get better for a few months and then it would start up again, so the case was just constantly open. She also had an illegal number of animals and people living in her house, so code enforcement reported her to animal control. We got in touch with the previous owner through our realtor to ask how she handled things and made it stop, and she was so helpful. She literally went through the same exact thing we did with the mood swings and blocked numbers. I also wanted to point out that it's illegal for you to not pick up dog poop in some states, including where we live. So I can't imagine why she thinks leaving it out on the porch is acceptable. Code enforcement recommended we leave a final physical letter and date it, just showing that we have exhausted all possible attempts at resolving the issue on our own. And last night she crumpled up the letter, wrote on the back of it, "Stay off my property," and threw the animal control citations from where she has ignored their visits on top of our car from her porch. We told code enforcement about it, and now she's getting an additional citation for that. Now every time I sit outside on my porch, which now has a privacy screen so I don't see her, she comes out multiple times a day to loudly tell her dogs, "No, you can't sit outside anymore and enjoy the sunshine or smell the wind. The neighbors will complain," and then immediately slams the door. I'm just so sick of the melodrama. I just want to sit on my porch and drink my coffee without smelling urine or crap and hear passive-aggressive remarks from a 50-year-old woman who acts like a 10-year-old. We are just ignoring her and reporting her to code enforcement and animal control as needed. But I dread knowing that I will be living in such close proximity to this woman for the rest of my life. It just sucks because all my other neighbors are amazing. 5. Me and my wife moved into a new townhome about 6 months ago. This townhome was previously rented out to a family of tenants, I believe, but now owned by us. A few weeks into our stay, we were having the mailbox locks changed, and all of our mail was being held at the post office. We noticed that despite us not having a key to the old locks, somehow the postal service was still delivering the old tenants' mail into the mailbox, and it was being picked up by them. We know this because of informed delivery. In fact, we actually had a check and a mailed prescription go missing. We just assumed with all the mail forwarding and postal holds it must have gotten lost in transit, but now we're thinking the old tenants might have taken it. The postal service was behind on changing the locks, but after a month of waiting they finally removed the old lock. The old tenants started showing up at our door asking for their mail. The first couple of times we gave it to them, understanding the hassles of dealing with the postal service, but also told them to make sure to have their mail forwarded because we would not continue to collect their mail, and they would stop showing up. Months forward, and they still occasionally show up, getting mail delivered and even packages. Only now they don't ask us for the mail. We have caught them on the Ring camera several times picking up their packages from our front door, or trying to intercept mail from the carrier directly, because they no longer have access to the box. I keep telling the carrier they no longer live here, and we have written return to sender on bank statements, checks, credit card bills, and other documents countless times. I called the previous rental company to report this, and even called FedEx to tell them do not deliver their packages here. We get more of their mail than our own. Not to mention, a rental company has shown up trying to collect a washer and dryer from the old tenants a few times now. We own everything in our house, so no reason for them to look for us. It has now been 6 months, and I saw them again on camera snooping around the residence and mailbox. I checked informed delivery, and a package of theirs is supposed to get delivered today. I'm thinking I should just file a police report because nothing is working, and we are 2 females who live alone, and this is a male who has shown up the past few times. However, the names on the mail are all different, and it's hard to know who actually used to live here. Anyone have any experience with this? Would the police be able to do anything when we have no real proof of who it is, other than ring footage and several different names from a stack of paper mail we keep sending back? Hellfreezer's note. This is very, very shady indeed. I think they're very likely up to some sort of criminal activity here, so calling the police might be a good idea. You definitely have the footage of strangers on your porch taking packages. No proof that those packages belong to them. As you say, the names are all different. Even if the police don't do anything right away, it does establish a paper trail and a history of activity that can be referred to later if they escalate, although I hope they don't. They sound like very silly and lazy criminals. If they come to your door, don't answer the door. If they get belligerent, definitely call the police in that case as well. I'm a little confused as to why they haven't changed their address. There's definitely something up there. And having the police look into it might be a good idea. Or maybe they're really that dumb and they don't know how to fill out a form changing their address. Best of luck with it, and although I think someone on the Reddit thread suggested keeping it because it belongs to you, it doesn't actually. Even if it's delivered to your address, if your name's not on it, it might still be illegal to open it. So keep not opening it. Just keep yourself on the right side of the law. Best of luck. Hey everybody, Hellfreezer here, and thank you very much for listening to Naughty Neighbours, Episode 9. And thank you very much to everybody who allowed me to use their stories in this video. Before you go, please hit the like button. As much interaction as possible is essentially the thing that helps YouTube recommend the video to other people. They base their algorithm on what you folks like. Essentially the way it works is you drive the videos through your activity that you get shown to you, and YouTube doesn't just randomly recommend things, which might be a good thing in some ways, but in other ways perhaps not so much. And if you'd like to get early access to these videos, you can do that by supporting me on my Patreon page, which is linked in the description. You'll also find links in there to the Hellfreezer Discord server and my merchandise store on Teespring. And you can leave a tip by clicking on the heart with a $sign underneath the video player. And while that is never required, I do very much appreciate the help. Okay, no other bits and bobs today, so let's move right along to Hellfreezer's question of the day. And today's question is: what is something that you deprived yourself of for a long time, needlessly, and then you're genuinely surprised by how awesome it is when you let yourself have it again? Mine's really, really boring. Those who watched my recent recording streams would have noticed I was drinking from one of those insulated bottles, a purple insulated bottle. And I have 3 of these things. I had them sitting for a while. And I'd give them a rinse and a wash the last time I'd used them, but they sat for ages before I used them again, and I wasn't too confident that the caps were properly clean, because there's lots of little nooks and crannies in there. So it was, eventually I bought a little cleaning brush, or cleaning brushes, it was 2 in them, so I could give everything a good proper clean. And that also sat for a while, for various reasons, ill health and various other things. And eventually, just a few days ago, I got round to actually cleaning these things again. So, what that does mean is I make sure my water gets really nice and ice cold, and I'll stick it in the bottles so that it stays very nice and cold and chilly throughout the day. And I am still just so much enamored and appreciative of how cool the water is. So like I said, I told you it was silly and boring, even although I knew that's literally what those bottles do, and that's why I bought them. I just wish I'd gotten off my butt and gotten them properly clean again sooner. Why don't you let me know what some of yours are in a comment below? And before we go, let's have a look at the answer of the day from a previous video. And this one comes from Naughty Neighbours number 8, and was about whether or not you like hot food in hot weather. I mentioned that I was kind of more of a snacker and liked cooler foods when the weather was hot. And today's answer comes from I am Blackthorn. I'm somewhat similar to you. However, when the weather is hot, my appetite takes a nosedive. I do become lazier. I want the food to materialize in front of me. Servants? I need servants. Oh, don't we all? We'll apparently all have robot servants in the future. Let's just hope they don't become sentient and try to kill us all. Sodas and sandwiches would be the better outcome there. Thank you very much for your answer. I am Blackthorn, and with that, I'm going to head off for now. So until next time, thank you very much for listening, and take very good care of yourselves.